Hi, I'm Tara McKee, the Associate Dean of Students for Academics and an Associate Professor in the Psychology Department. In the coming days, you will meet your assigned academic advisor and begin a discussion of longer-term educational planning, a discussion that's going to end up spanning the entirety of your college education. As you embark on that conversation, I thought it would be helpful to know a bit about the expectations for your role in the advising relationship, as well as what you should expect from your academic advisor in this relationship. So, what are your responsibilities? Well, first of all, read your email. Respond to your email. Set filters so that keeping up with your email is not overwhelming. A great deal of information and communication will occur over your email, especially from your professors and your advisors. So get used to using it. Second, you need to be familiar with factual material, such as graduation requirements and academic regulations, or you at least need to know how to find that information so that you can refer to it when you need it. The Hamilton website provides a wealth of information at your fingertips, and the search bar on the main page is your friend. You know, it's that thing that you get when you click on the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Just type in what you're looking for. PE requirement, honor code, whatever you want. And oftentimes, the first thing that pops up is what you need. So take a stab at finding the answers to your questions yourself. Then, if you still have questions, don't hesitate to ask someone. Which brings me to my next piece of advice. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. There are a variety of support services at Hamilton for coursework, for writing and speaking and quantitative work, for mental health and disabilities and career planning, just to name a few. These all involve people, whether it's the professors who teach your courses, or your peers who are tutors at the Quantitative and Symbolic Reasoning Center, or staff members with expertise to help you with personal struggles. All of these people stand at the ready to support you in your education, so take advantage of them. There's often a misunderstanding that professor office hours or something like the Writing Center is only for people who struggle. That's not true. Everyone can benefit from these resources. And you know that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Well, that basically means that being proactive and seeking out support is a lot easier, and in the end may end up taking a lot less time than only being reactive and waiting until you're struggling to seek out those resources. Not only that, but office hours are where you get to have interesting conversations with your professors, conversations that you can't have in class. It's where you get to know your professors a little bit more, and they get to know you, and they begin to care about you and advocate for you. Frank Bruni wrote in a recent New York Times opinion piece that, quote, "A professor or administrator who takes a genuine interest in you can be a bridge to other influential people inside and outside the school, to limited space seminars, to special collaborations, to exclusive summer programs, to competitive internships, to graduate work and more," end quote. So take the time to cultivate these important relationships. Finally, you have a responsibility to set goals for yourself, to make a plan for your education, to reflect on that plan, and to reevaluate it over time. The advising community at Hamilton will help you in that process. So one part of that community is your assigned academic advisor. What is that person there to do? First, advisors are not encyclopedias, although you probably don't even know what an encyclopedia is. They are not the holders of all the information. They don't have the catalog and the details of every major memorized, but they will know where to help you find that information and how to interpret and use that information to make decisions. Advisors are going to encourage you to branch out, to try something new or challenging. You may have an idea of the major that you want to pursue, but trust me when I say that some course you never thought that you would be interested in could end up changing your whole life trajectory. When I went to college, I was convinced that marine biology was my one true passion. I was going to be the next Jacques Cousteau. Then I took an introductory psychology course in my sophomore year, and I was hooked. Look at me now. I'm not out exploring the ocean and getting seasick. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I get to work with and teach students every day. I think it's the best job ever. And it's all thanks to that one course. So I want you to use your time now to seek out those new experiences. It's going to become much harder to do that by the time you're a junior or a senior. Your advisors are also going to ask you, and provide assistance if you need it, to make a tentative plan across multiple semesters, and then to reflect on and revise that plan as your experience and interests evolve. Part of that plan will be how your personal goals and your career aspirations connect with Hamilton's educational goals. Your advisors are going to ask you lots of questions, and you won't always know the answers. But the thinking that they will push you to do and the conversations that you will have with them will help you formulate those answers. Advisors also have a responsibility to make sure that you are aware of the host of support services that I mentioned earlier. We know that it isn't always easy to take the initiative and be proactive on your own. So we're going to be there to remind you and encourage you and poke and prod so that you do make use of those resources. One last thing. The exciting but sometimes scary thing about college is that you are responsible for your own success. Your advisors are here to do just that, advise, not make decisions for you. And my advisor didn't tell me X is never an acceptable excuse for anything at Hamilton. You have to take the advice that you seek out from this community and make decisions on a daily basis, both inside and outside of class. But I hope you view this responsibility as an opportunity. You have the ability to create your own future. It's a big responsibility, but I believe it's one that all of you are ready to take on. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. We all want you to succeed, and we wish each and every one of you the best of luck as you embark on your educational journey. It is now my honor to introduce the star of the show, the Winslow Chair of Modern Science and Chair and Professor of Geosciences, David Bailey. Professor Bailey has been at Hamilton for 30 years and is widely respected among his colleagues. He is a scholar of the history of igneous and tectonic activity in the northeastern US, as well as the mineralogy of New York State. He has numerous publications in these areas and was the recipient of the National Science Foundation ILI and CCLI grants. He has taught courses on Earth's resources and the environment, as well as the origins of natural systems such as matter, the Earth, and the solar system. Professor Bailey has served on and chaired numerous major campus committees. He received the Samuel and Helen Lang Prize for Excellence in Teaching this past May, and he was a mentor to our very first Miami posse. He's also a passionate advocate for the importance of the liberal arts. It's for all of these reasons that we asked him to speak with you about your academic transition to Hamilton, and in particular, academic advising. Welcome, Professor Bailey.
Thank you, Dean McKee. So welcome, Hamilton College Class of 2024. It is my honor and privilege to be able to address all of you today as you begin this exciting new adventure in your life. To be sure, this is not the beginning of another average school year up on the hill. Ideally, we would all be gathered in a large auditorium and we'd be able to share that energy and excitement that each of you are bringing with you to campus. But unfortunately, you are probably sitting alone in your dorm room or in a hotel room somewhere and are now forced to listen to this cranky old professor give you some advice about what you should and shouldn't do over the next 4 years. I promise you, your college experience can and will only get better from here. But so what do I tell you? What inspirational message can I pass along? Well, I'll be honest, I don't think I have one. I even Googled inspirational orientation speeches and came up empty-handed. Sure, there are a lot of speeches online, and all of them pretty much say the same thing about how wonderful you all are, the amazing things you accomplished in high school, how incredible Hamilton College is, the facilities, the faculty, and how these are going to be the best 4 years of your life. And every single word of that is true. But I'm not sure it's all that inspirational or resonates with 18-year-olds. It's probably, and I'm sure it's what was said at my college orientation, but to be honest, I can't remember a single word that was said, and I'm almost positive you will say the same thing in 40 years, or more likely 40 minutes. But instead, I think I'm just going to steal and build off of one of Dean McKee's remarks, where she said, your advisors are going to ask you lots of questions. To me, this gets at the core of everything your education is about, asking questions. And I love to ask my students and advisees questions. So I'll often just start out with an open-ended question like, so why are you here? And most students take this question very literally and interpret to mean, why are you sitting in this classroom or this lecture hall, or in your case, your dorm room, listening to this old senile professor? And their response is usually something along the lines of, it's because it's required as part of orientation. And guess what? That's a fair, honest, and reasonable answer. But I'm going to push my students a bit further and have them interpret the question a bit more broadly. No, why are you here at Hamilton College? And I really wish you were here in this room with me so I could hear some of your answers and responses. Over the years, I've heard so many different and wonderful stories, from the not too surprising, well, my mom and dad both went to Hamilton, I didn't really have a choice, to the fairly common, we went to look at Colgate, and my parents made me stop and take a tour at Hamilton because we were so close. And you know, I fell in love with the campus and the people. But I've also heard some unusual stories, such as, my Uncle Bob told me that there were a lot of cows in upstate New York, and I really like cows. Okay, there are lots of reasons to go to college. Of course, some students give answers that would make the admissions office proud, such as, I decided to come to Hamilton because the college is a national leader for teaching students how to write clearly and to speak persuasively. So if your answer sounded something like that, send it over to the communications office along with your picture so they can put it up on our website. But I'm still not done pushing and annoying my students. I'll then ask them, why are you in college at all? And I think all of you should take a minute and think about how you would answer this question. And think about which of the following categories your response would fit into. From the relatively uncertain, I don't know, it's just what you do after high school, to the vague, well, I've been told you need to get a college degree to get a decent job, but also to the highly specific, that I plan on being a triple major, biology, psychology, Hispanic studies, because I plan on being a pediatric neurosurgeon in Guatemala after I graduate. Whatever your response, I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with any of these. Everyone comes to college with vastly different backgrounds and ambitions, and that's part of what makes this such an interesting and vibrant community. And whether or not you have very specific educational goals or not, I urge all of you to fully embrace the philosophy of the liberal arts education. Take courses in subjects you're unfamiliar with, and yes, even afraid of. Don't use the open curriculum to avoid subject areas you don't like. Use it to explore and broaden your perspective and thinking skills. I can speak from personal experience. When I was an undergraduate at a very similar small liberal arts college, I was one of those math science guys, and I didn't really want to take courses in humanities, social sciences, or the arts. But guess what? Some of the best courses I took were in history, philosophy, and religious studies. And looking back on my undergraduate education, I can tell you that my one major regret is that I didn't take courses in art or music. So don't graduate with regrets. Challenge yourself, explore, and broaden your knowledge and perspective. It will pay off by enriching your entire post-Hamilton life, I promise you. Well, you know what? My questions still don't end there. If I'm in a really philosophical mood, I'll even ask my students, no, why are you here? Why do you exist? And as you might expect, this question usually results in dumbfounded, uncomfortable silence, but sometimes it results in an hour-long conversation about the origin of the universe and the meaning of life. So what are the points of this rambling talk? The first is that you should constantly be asking questions and trying to figure out who you are and why you are here and what you want to accomplish in life. And the second is that while we all tend to focus on the details of day-to-day life, what dorm are you living in? What's for lunch? When's the next assignment due? You need to find time to step back, look at the bigger picture, and think about, again, who do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish? And what can you contribute to this community, to society? So finally, I want to end with a few slides that try to put some of these ideas into context. So as I said, I like to look at the big picture. And as a geologist, I always come back to this perspective, that all of us will be spending our entire lives on a tiny, little, insignificant rock in the vastness of space. But these different perspectives and images like this can be incredibly powerful, and powerful agents of change as well. So when this image came back from the Apollo 8 mission in December 1968, and following subsequent images from the moon landing in the summer of '69, they played an incredibly important role in galvanizing the nascent environmental movement. And just a little over 1 year later, the first Earth Day event was organized and held, and it became the single largest social movement in United States history. Over 20 million people protested in the streets all over the country. And amazingly, this event prompted our elected officials to take action. It seems almost impossible to believe considering how our government functions today. But in less than a year, more than 5 major pieces of legislation were passed through Congress and signed into law. Major large government agencies were created: the Environmental Protection Agency, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. These all in a year, and they made an incredible difference. Unfortunately, most Americans and all of you are too young to remember the horrendous environmental problems the country faced in the 50s and 60s. Air pollution was a serious problem in all metropolitan areas: New York City, Boston, Chicago. But the Clean Air Act resulted in dramatic improvements in air quality across the country in less than a decade. Similarly, the majority of U.S. rivers were highly polluted, many completely dead. The Cuyahoga River in Ohio had periodically caught fire from the 1950s through the 70s as a result of uncontrolled dumping of petrochemicals. And where I grew up north of Boston, the Merrimack River was one of the most polluted rivers in the country, completely dead, and I remember seeing a foot-thick brown foam on the surface of the river from all the mills in Lawrence and Lowell. But the Clean Water Act resulted in the eventual rejuvenation and restoration of almost all of these river ecosystems. So what does this have to do with you and our country today? Well, I find it quite remarkable that almost exactly 50 years later, the Black Lives Movement protest matched and in some ways even exceeded the scale of the first Earth Day protests. Will these protests result in the same scale of legislative action? Will they result in the societal changes desperately needed in our country? I don't know, but I'm hopeful that your generation will do what is needed to hold our leaders accountable and to push for real action for the serious issues of our time, including social justice and climate action. So for the next 4 years, your job is to ask questions, to explore, and as stated in the Hamilton College motto, know thyself. Because Socrates was right, the unexamined life is not worth living. But throughout the whole process, don't forget to step back, look at the bigger picture, and to think about what it means to be a somewhat intelligent animal living on this tiny water-covered rock with 7 billion other people. So class of 2024, welcome to Hamilton College. I hope I get to meet most of you over the next few weeks. And so good luck and enjoy your time at Hamilton. Thank you.